Welcome back to the Cultural Curriculum Chat podcast, where we honor the stories that inspire us, challenge us, and call us to live more boldly and authentically. Today's guest is someone who built companies, launched ideas, and chased milestones that you would only dream of. Yet he discovered that success without self can leave us feeling more than lost. Jon Bowerman is a lifelong entrepreneur, designer, and creative strategist. He is a co founder of Stealth and has built businesses across tech, marketing, medicine, and senior living. But beyond those achievements and accolades, Jon's work now centers on something deeper: wholeness over hustle. I love that. Purpose over proving, and creativity as a way back into joy. He is also the author of a new book titled You're Not Lost, You're Just Starting, originally written for his own children, and now is resonating with young adults, parents, dreamers, and anyone standing at the crossroads of asking, what now? Who am I becoming? Jon, welcome to the show.
Yeah, thank you for having me today, Jeb.
Thank you. Thank you. So you wrote this book for your kids. What moment sparked it? And did you ever imagine it to resonate so wildly?
I didn't. It started with me having a pretty unconventional life. I started out with the path that was told to me that was this is the way. This is the way you live life productively is you go to college, you don't go to art school, you go to engineering because that's where the money is, and you follow through the checklist of life to get things done. And I could see those same patterns emerging with my teenagers as of being asked by many parents, the pressure is being put on them of where are you going to college? What career are you choosing? What is it? And as teenagers, that's a very overwhelming thing to and weight to carry, especially because they're still even coming to terms with what does the phrase "grow up" even mean? And we live in a world where picking one thing that you're going to become is very unlikely, and you're likely to pivot numerous times. And I didn't think that the number one question that a teenager needs to be answering is where to go to college. Rather, uh, what what is going to make me happy? How do I want to serve others in my life? And that's really where we need to explore. I'll give you an example where my son was struggling with. Well, I really love teaching. For him, that meant I have to become a teacher, and he really didn't understand that. Well, there is so much opportunities in teaching. Uh, Being in a leadership position is being a teacher or a coach, right? There are so many opportunities there. And so the book really came out of wanting to not have my children spend so many years of their life like I did, going through what I call the checklist of life.
I love that, Jon. And you're right, the checklist. And it's a very big question, to ask a teenager who's just trying to, launch out into the world and all the questions of what are you going to do? What's your next plan? Da, 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 da. And they're just like, I feel like I'm at a press conference. I don't even know what's for lunch tomorrow? And so it feels so daunting for them to have it all figured out. And I just love that title of your book. You're not lost, you're just starting. And you're right. There is just some beauty in the pivot, and how you can be many things and not just one thing to check the box to keep going through life. Oh, that's
Absolutely. And
yeah, that
one
mhm,
thing that we are proven to be awful at, myself included,
me too.
is predictors of the future.
Yes.
In fact, I do this every year and just did it again this year, where I look back on the last year and write a list of all of the things that happened that brought me joy and happiness. And then I look back before the year And I wouldn't have been able to predict 95% of those things that have happened. And really, this idea of retirement, retirement being the goal. And that's how I was raised. That was my parents. It's like you're going to get a good job and then you're going to work till retirement. And once you retire, that's when you start living your life. And really, I think the goal of life is not retirement, it's to build a life you never want to retire from.
You
And that,
nailed it. Yes.
yeah,
Yeah, build a life you never want to retire from. I love that should be the goal. Instead of
that
like,
is
yes, yes. Instead of like you said, I think, we can talk about this all day, but our parents' generation was like, you work, you do this. And I'm from an immigrant family. So for me to go from teaching 18 years to start my own business, my mom's like, what? What happened? What have I done? So it
absolutely.
is the purpose of your life of finding that joy and holding on to it as much as possible. Because yeah, this is a life I do not want to retire from. This is amazing meeting awesome people like you. So let's continue this conversation. I'm loving it. So talking about joy and how you've described, like checking those boxes, it can feel empty, that milestone of, okay, got the good job, but I'm not finding that joy, but yeah, I'm checking the boxes. I'm fulfilling everybody else's happiness but my own. Can you take us into a moment of when that shifted for you, when you were checking those boxes and you're like, wait a minute, I need to stop and, reflect on what I'm doing here?
Absolutely. There's a very distinct moment. And that moment was when I achieved what every entrepreneur's dream is. I achieved everything that I had been working for in my life, and that was the sale of my first company. It was a really big sale. It was an exit. It's what everyone hopes happens one day. And very shortly after, I felt just extremely depressed. I didn't realize how much that company was part of my identity, uh, how much I really enjoyed the journey. Even though it was tough, it was the journey through building the company and getting people to follow you as a leader and to believe in something that you're putting together, your vision, that was really what it was all about. The exit was actually one of the most anticlimactic events that I've ever gone through. And I realized that up until that point, I had been doing, all of my goals were around what I was supposed to do. Instead of it was all about how do I grow this company to a point where I can sell it? Instead of how might I grow or position this company or my position within it as something that I would enjoy doing for the rest of my life. And I really hadn't ever taken that approach, and now that is the approach that I take in just about everything.
It's amazing. Amazing. Um, Here's another question for you too, when you're talking about that shift of feeling that that was your identity. So many young people, and even like you said, people that take up this book and go, what is next? Who am I becoming? Like what now? What advice would you give to that person who feels lost and feels like their identity is just glommed onto one thing?
Sure. Uh, Number one, the biggest misconception about entrepreneurship, and I think that prevents a lot of people from moving forward, is this idea that to have a mindset of an entrepreneur means I need to be an entrepreneur. And to be an entrepreneur means I need to start a business. It means that I need to stop everything that I'm doing. I need to go all in. I need to risk everything. And that couldn't be further from the truth. I think some of the most entrepreneurial minds never start a business. Um, and really, what I want people to understand is that you're the CEO of yourself. And if you start with the entrepreneur mindset, it means that even if I work for another company, which I have several times, and there's a purpose to that. When you're young, starting out, why not learn on someone else's dime, right? Versus learning all of that yourself.
Yeah.
And through that, you still, as the CEO of yourself. So Jebba, you're the CEO of Jebeh
Cultural
Edmunds.
consulting.
Yes,
Yeah. Yeah.
absolutely.
But
And
Jebeh Edmunds first and foremost.
yes,
I love that.
Jebeh
Yes.
Edmunds first and foremost.
Yeah.
And if you work for a company, I always just look at that company as that's your biggest client. And if they're your biggest client, you would show up and you would represent yourself. You negotiate for yourself. And it has to make sense. And that is where I think a lot of people can start. And I'll give you an example of this. I
Mhm.
had a friend that was very unsatisfied, went the engineering route, was very unsatisfied in his position, felt he was undercompensated, and said, I am going to leave the company. I'm going to find another job because they don't value what I bring. And I told him, I asked him, I said, well, what if your compensation doubled? Do you enjoy where you work, the people you work with? He's like, yeah, I really love the people that I work with. I really enjoy the company. Like we do some cool stuff. Well, I said, so it's just around compensation. I said, have you asked? Have you just asked for more? He's like, oh, no, I'm not going to do that because they won't give it to me. Well, I had an idea. I said, well, what if I ask for you? And if I get you double salary, how about we split it? He said, well, that's not fair. I'm doing the work. And I said, but you're not even going to ask. You're already out the door. You're going to leave. Why not ask? What if they say yes? Because if they say
Mm.
no, what has changed? Nothing.
Mhm.
But if they say yes, now they know you're someone that's not afraid to ask for what you want. You get your compensation, and so it's a potential win-win. You have no risk. The only risk is what you're afraid of. And that is not likely, what you're afraid of is not likely to happen. It's just fear. Just ask. And that
Yes.
is one of the ways where, as an entrepreneur, when you have the mindset of an entrepreneur, one of the lessons that's even in the book is you're just not afraid to ask, not afraid to hear no.
Yeah.
You never fail as long as you learn something from it.
Exactly.
That's where I
And
think people can start.
I love that. And even no, I mean, that's all it is, and that's okay. It could be a
Yeah.
redirection in something else, but at least you said, that's your client, your biggest client to say, this is what I bring to the table. And, I
Mhm.
feel like you're right. A lot of people just feel like they're ready to just leave because they feel like they have that no in the back of their mind already. So it's like, well, why even bother? But I love that where you go, what if they say yes? And to him, it was like a radical thought, like, oh, what if they say yes?
Absolutely.
Yeah, yeah. We're so conditioned to just feel like it's just gonna be a block. It's gonna be a no anyway. So I'm just gonna take what I learned and just move on to something else where they could say, we value you and we want you to be retained with us and we will pay you for what you're doing. Yeah. Oh
100%.
man. Yeah. John, where were you in my 20s? I could have loved that.
Where was
To
I in
learn
my
about
20s?
being my I know, right? To be my CEO self. I love that. This is just amazing advice. So, you talked about, previously, launching companies around all these industries and you said that they have more of a purpose of why you've changed from like marketing and medicine and all of these different, sectors. What had ties all of your work together? Like what was that common theme that brought you into these different spaces?
Yeah, I'm a problem solver at heart. I love solving problems. I'm something that I was fortunate to learn at an early age as started getting started was, and this prevents a lot of people from getting started, is this idea that you have to come up with this incredible idea that in order to
Mhm.
start, if you want to pursue a business or, your own side hustle, anything like that, that you have to come up with, you have to invent this idea that no one has ever thought about. What I learned very early was I don't invent ideas. I don't invent problems that need to be solved. I listen for people complaining or just talking, expressing the pains that they have. And all of the companies that I have been a part of starting all come from listening to that many people talk about this is a mess. Mentioned that a co-founder of one of the companies right now is Stealth, and stealth what came out of hearing so many founders at companies talk about how marketing is so chaotic. Well, after you hear 20 people say marketing is complete chaos in my business, you don't have to go out and invent the idea. You just have to figure out the solution. And so all of those companies have taken me down different paths where I just hear enough people talk about what they need help with. So I know that I've got customers before I even go into coming up with the solution.
It's amazing. And again, as an entrepreneur, you have to see what is missing. What is something that I can do to help alleviate what is this common theme, this common problem? And like you said, you were the observer, the problem solver, and again, that connector to say, hey, these are my customers right here, just giving me what they need. And I can come back and come up with the solution that best fits them because you know what their pain points are. Oh my gosh, this
Mm.
is amazing. I love it. So, being that problem solver, you have to also be resilient. You also have to be curious with that observancy and being creative of creating something new, like you said, with this company that you're in. So, why are those three things? Because you talked about this in your book too, curiosity, creativity, and resilience. Why is those three pillars so important for people to strengthen?
Yeah. I'll start with the resilience.
Okay.
I'm I might be one of the happiest failures you've ever met.
Mm.
I fail every single day, every month, every week, every year, and I absolutely love to fail because I do not look at failing as something negative. Every failure is an opportunity to learn something. And where I've gotten to now is about building upon everything that I've learned. And so the resilience comes out of it's not a setback. It's just now I know something more for the future. I can't do anything about what happened 5 minutes ago. All I can do is change what happens in the next 5 minutes. And that's how I approach it. And I think the curiosity in the creativity comes with uh, understanding that we know so little about what goes on around us. We feel like we're observing everything. We feel like we're paying attention to everything, and we're not missing anything. But really, this idea that we have a 360-degree field of vision, it couldn't be further from the truth. It's more about 10%. And so, what that means is that 90% of everything that is happening around us, we don't see. So my curiosity comes from what is the 90% of my life that I'm just missing? And typically the answers, the people, the opportunities, everything is already there. I just need to become aware of it.
I love that. I love that. And you're right. Yeah, we can't see everything in front of us, but again, and around us, it's just that what can I do? What can I control kind of a thing. Yeah, yeah. I love that. So let's talk more about your artistic side. I like this about you. You're also a poet, an illustrator, a sand sculptor. I mean,
Yeah.
John, you got all kinds of many hats and talents. This is amazing. So, how does creativity and entrepreneurship intersect for you?
Yeah. I love my art. It's how I identify now as an artist, artist first, and I practice it. Um, the sand sculpture came out of I spent many years as a in masonry. So just working with the sand. Loved getting away from a screen using my hands. I
Mhm.
think that's so important to get back into our bodies when we live in our mind. Um, and it's, I've always looked at this, even when it came to technology, even some of the technology companies, that the technology itself is not what's exciting. The tools aren't the exciting part. It's what we do with the tools. Um, one of the most impactful things that I've heard maybe 15 years ago was Steve Jobs, who's influenced so many people. And the original colors that he selected for the release of the Mac desktops. And this was when they came in blue and red and yellow and green, and
Yeah.
they were
Mhm.
beautiful. And it wasn't the traditional gray that was out there in the market, and that wasn't by accident, that those colors were chosen. In fact, those colors were chosen from one of the original Kodak palettes. And because
Mhm.
Steve Jobs forced himself to learn about things that seemed to be completely unrelated to his industry, or what he was interested in, but he read and he just was curious about so many interesting things, that the brain starts to connect what seems like these disconnected concepts, and starts to put those things together, to make sense. And so for me, when I can spend time in my body doing artistic work, it allows my mind to explore what might be completely unrelated. But for example, with sand sculpting,
Mhm.
it's actually less about the art, it's more about the psychology experiment for me,
Mm.
because I do it on a public beach. And for about the first hour, as you're making a big pile of sand, everyone looks at you like, what is this grown man doing making a big pile of sand on the beach?
Yeah,
And
yeah.
every 15 minutes, as the sculpture begins to take shape, more and more people notice. I have met so many different people around the world, that have come up to me to talk about the sand sculpture. I've met people from Pixar. I've met all kinds of different opportunities have opened just by being someone that's willing to show up and make some sand art. Um, and so I look in those types of spaces for, how else would I get connected? How else would I meet? Just really branch out to people from, that I've never met, and that's been a really exciting way to do so.
Wow, that's amazing, and I bet it's just so calming and meditative as well, and then people are just sitting there watching, your vision, come into this medium and just wow, that's amazing, because at first you're like, "What is this person digging up all of sand around for? And I wonder what he's
As
doing. What is he thinking about? What is it gonna be?" And then they wanna watch until it comes alive for them, That must be really, really cool to be in that experience with them. That's
Absolutely.
amazing. Yeah. So, okay, what is one message you hope our listeners and viewers on YouTube will carry with them after hearing your story with us today?
Colonel Sanders didn't start
Mhm.
KFC until he was in his mid 60s. You are just like you're not lost, you're just starting. Is you're not behind, you're right on time,
Oh, I love that.
because we can't change anything about 5 minutes ago, nor are you obligated to be the same person that you were 5 minutes ago. And so right now is the time to get started. Even there's one of my favorite expressions is, how do you eat an elephant? Well, one bite at a time.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
that is exactly the way to start, with the small shifts of just deploying that entrepreneur mindset in your everyday life without going all in. You don't have to get a second mortgage to start a business or come up with some idea. And you can just start applying that to your life. And I think you'll achieve a greater sense of happiness and purpose out of it.
Yeah, and also too, it's, that entrepreneurial mindset of you're right on time. Who's running this race but you? You are only doing this for yourself. And I love how you said that with Colonel Sanders. I didn't know that he started that business at 60. Yeah, so it is. It's amazing what people come have in their purpose to see and then they shine in their own way. That's awesome. Where can our viewers and listeners find you, John? And where can they get your book?
Yeah, you can go to the website notloststarting.com, which will take you right to the book. You can also go to my personal website, which is jonbowerman.com, if you want to work with me, coach, anything like that. Also, the on the book page on my website, I put together, it's a free guide for everyone, which is the Everyday Entrepreneur Action Guide. So if you're thinking about, how do I negotiate for more at work? How do I anything like that? I've got some really great free tools there to start applying it just in a very small way for a big impact.
Love that, love that. Oh, and we'll have all of your information in our show notes too, so viewers and listeners can get your work. And I'm definitely getting that book for my son. He's a senior in high school, and just how you said, you're not starting, you're just beginning. It's all good, all good. So, John, thank you so much for your wisdom, your courage, and vulnerability. And this conversation has just been a great reminder that success isn't about checking the box and what are we going to build today, but it's about who we are becoming and the whole process of it all. So I love that. You're not just lost, you're just starting. And this is just great for all of us ages, no matter where we are in our journeys. So thanks again, John. And thank you all, listeners and viewers. I will see you here same time next week. Bye bye.
Navi.